Let's face it, nursing school is competitive, expensive, hard to get into, and also hard to get out of. Plus, you have to pass NCLEX. Oh my goodness. There's a lot of people that I get who say, I want to go into healthcare, I want to become a nurse, I don't know if this is for me, I can't get into school, it costs too much, this, that, and the third. Look, there are other careers out here besides nursing where you can still help patients, you can still have that one-on-one relationship with your patients, you can still deal with doctors and families in healthcare, and you can still really make a big difference in someone's life. Okay, I'm not saying that these careers that I go over are going to be easy to get into, or that they're going to be like a lot cheaper than going to nursing school, or they're going to be a whole lot less competitive, but there are other options. I think people look at nursing and they feel like, I just want to become a nurse, and they don't realize that there's other stuff out here that is really similar, not necessarily similar to nursing, but you still get to help your patients and you still get to be in healthcare, and you do not have to become a nurse. So if you're interested, let's continue watching. So in this video, I'm going to give you all the salary of these careers, the education level, and then give you a little bit of an idea of what you would do in this career and maybe some of the work settings that you can work in, so that you can get a better idea, just a brief idea of what each of these careers are about, how much schooling it's going to take, and around how much money you're going to make. So as far as the salary, I'm going to show you all the average salary here in Missouri, and then also the nationwide. The reason why I'm looking at Missouri, or St. Louis, Missouri in particular, is just because it's a large city, it's in the Midwest. It's just to give you all like an idea of like an actual city versus just like nationwide, because we all know that salaries like really fluctuate across the entire US. So here in Missouri, around the average amount of rent is between $800 to $1,000 for an average amount of rent in a decent area, 1 bedroom. Where I'm at, we're in a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath, and we pay less than $700, and we're in a pretty good neighborhood. So it just depends on where you're at, where you want to live in the city or in the county. It just all depends. Registered nurses on average make around $55,000 to $286,000 here in St. Louis. So that's around $28 an hour, $28, $29 an hour here in St. Louis. And then it also ranges between $41,000 to $69,000 salary a year. And then the national average here in Missouri, nurses do get paid less than a lot of other places in the US, but here the national average is between is around $78,000 compared to $55,000 here in Missouri. So the range nationwide, that's why I really wanted to show you all like an actual city average, so you can get a really good idea of how much you would be making. But the nationwide range for registered nurses are between $56,000 and $100,000. So you can see it's a huge freaking range. So just keep that in mind. And then for LPNs, typically you make around $43,000 a year, which is about $22.50 an hour. And the range for here in Missouri is between $36,000 and $52,000 a year. And then the nationwide average is about $48,000 a year. So that just gives you an idea of how much nurses are making. Registered nurses, typically it takes you 2 years to become a registered nurse, plus your prerequisites, which can range. It just depends on how long it takes for you to actually complete your prerequisites. But I would say a good amount would be about a year plus a summer semester of prerequisites. And typically for LPN programs, you can just go into the program and start your program and be done within 12 months. That's what I did to become an LPN. But there are some schools that have you do your prerequisites and then you get into the LPN program. But typically you're looking about maybe 12 to 15 months for an LPN program. Sometimes they have 18-month LPN programs. So that's that to give you just a good general foundation or basis about how much nurses are making here in St. Louis and also across the US. All right, you all, so let's get into these top 6 careers you can do with about the same amount of schooling as nursing and still make the same amount of money as a nurse, if not a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, just depends on where you're at. Just as a preface, you all, I know somebody's gonna say something in the comments, it's really based off where you live, how much you're making there, the job opportunities there. So you have to look at your specific area, look at the job outlooks in that area, look at maybe how many positions they have in the area, the potential growth in the area, the pay, all that jazz. I'm just looking at a very broad way of looking at this, looking at the entire US, but just so it can be specific, I'm looking at St. Louis, Missouri, so you can have a more focused idea. Does that make sense to anybody? But I know somebody gonna comment, here and we make this much. Just go ahead and comment. Just go ahead and do it. You all of these different careers I looked at are in the community colleges. You do not have to go to a specialized healthcare for-profit school. You can get these freaking degrees in a community college. Very affordable, very affordable. So the first career is an assisted living administrator. So this is basically, the administrator is over the entire nursing facility. Now there's a difference between assisted living administrator and then a long-term care administrator. So here in Missouri, every state has it differently, whether you have to have an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. It's all different. Some states, all you have to have is a high school diploma. Some states, you can be an LPN and you can become an assisted living administrator. It just really depends on your state and your city, so you really need to do your research and see. I know someone who's an LPN and she became an administrator, but I also know there's administrators who have no medical experience. They just took the test, they pass it, they're good. So it really just depends. The schooling, like I said, varies depending on where you're at, but they make a decent amount of money. So assisted living, not long-term care. When I was looking at it, it said long-term care, you would have to either have your bachelor's or your master's degree in order to become an administrator over those facilities, and you make very good money doing that. But assisted living administrators, depending on where you're at in the facility in the state, they can make on average here in Missouri $57,000 a year, which is around $30 an hour. But the range here in St. Louis is between $39,000 and $80,000 for an assisted living administrator. I could not freaking find any nationwide amount for this, but this is just here in St. Louis. And like I said, St. Louis is a little bit on the lower end as far as pay for nurses mostly. But typically when I was looking at this, for everything else, St. Louis is pretty competitive when it comes to pay as far as national average. So that's just that. If I find more information about it, I'll put it down here for you all. If not, please comment down below if you know how much an assistant administrator pays in your area. But basically what they do is they're over the entire facility. So they're over the director of nursing, they're over all the different departments that you would find in an assisted living facility. So that's over dietary, over the nurses. They basically just run the whole facility. If there's an issue, people come in, they're the big boss over the entire facility. So they have a lot of responsibilities. They have to know a little bit about everything, but you do not have to become a nurse. It really just depends on your area that you're in. But from the research that I did, you do not have to be a nurse in order to do this. And it can be minimal amount of education to more education. Of course, the more education that you have, the more competitive you are as far as looking for a job. So that's the first one. Second is respiratory therapist. So you don't hear a lot about this, and someone actually commented in one of the Facebook groups about respiratory therapy, and I think respiratory therapists are amazing. So here in Missouri, on average, they make around $50,738 a year, which translates to about $26 an hour. And the range here in St. Louis is between $41,000 to $64,000 a year. National average for a respiratory therapist is about $67,000 a year. I'll put the exact amounts on the screen if you haven't seen them already. So that's about how much respiratory therapists make. It takes about 2 years to do it, and you do have to do prerequisites that are similar to nursing. So you're gonna still have to do A&P 1 and 2, like an English class, probably biology, something like that. I mean, we're dealing with the human body, so you can't get out of A&P 1 and 2. I'm just sorry, you just cannot. So that's that. And typically it takes 2 years to complete this program. I'm not saying that it's not as competitive as nursing, but I'm sure there's way less people going for respiratory therapy than there are people going for nursing. So definitely look into it. Basically, the respiratory therapist, they're going to do with anything that has to do with the respiratory system. So there's a lot of diseases as far as like patients who get trach care. That's a really big thing in respiratory therapy. So they would do trach care for a patient, suctioning, educating the staff at nursing homes about how to properly suction patients. You might see them in the hospitals actually intubating patients, things like that. these people can do home health as well, and you can also do traveling respiratory therapy as well. So that's really something to look into. You can do agency too. So I think this is a good career, especially I know someone, her and her daughter have like breathing issues, like asthma, all that. So I told her, like, you should really go into this. Like, this is gonna be something to be interesting to you since you see that your daughter has an issue. So maybe just try it. Of course, it is more specialized, but you can work, like I said, in home, in hospitals, in nursing homes. You can travel, and you can do agency where you go to different facilities or go to different patients' homes. And you can work with adults and pediatric patients as a respiratory therapist. Number 3, which I think is super cool, is you can become an ultrasound tech or a sonographer. So with them here in Missouri, the average pay is $74,643 a year, which translates to about $38 to around $39 an hour. So the range here in St. Louis is between $67,000 to $82,000 a year, and the national average is about $75,000 a year. So that's amazing. I think that's really good. Basically, with ultrasound techs or sonographers, what they do is they use an ultrasound machine, and they usually can work in OB, or they can do adult or diagnostic type of ultrasound work. I think OB is super, super cool, especially if you are someone who wants to work with babies or you want to work with pregnant women. I think becoming an ultrasound tech and doing OB would be super cool. I remember with both my kids, like, I just thought it was like a really fun job. Now, of course, I'm sure there's times where it can be really sad, certain things happen, or you see certain issues with the child that can be really sad. But I think overall it seems like a really fun job. You don't have to deal with anybody's body parts and pee and urine and fluids. You don't have to deal with none of that. So it seems like a fun thing to do, but you have to really understand anatomy, and you have to understand how to read the system. And so it is that, but you're still getting that one-on-one connection with patients. And a lot of times when it comes to ultrasounds, especially with OB, that's a fun time. It's like good times. So I feel like it would be a whole lot stressful than nursing. So that's that. Of course, with this, you still have to do your A&P 1 and 2. You do have to go a little bit deeper. Like, I looked at my school here in St. Louis, the community college. You have to do like physics, and you have to go a little bit further as far as your science. So if you're strong in science, or if you're interested in science, this might be the career for you, and it pays pretty freaking good. And also, I know, like, where I was working at a nursing home, they have mobile ultrasound techs. So they will take their machine, take it out the car, the van, or whatever, bring it into the nursing home, not x-ray, but they would do the ultrasounds on patients and then keep it pushing. They go on to the next facility. So if you like to kind of be out there on your own in the field, moving and grooving, that might be something for you to do. And it's good pay. And it takes 2 years to complete ultrasound techs. The 4th career is a radiology tech. This is where you would get into your x-rays or your x-ray tech. They also do mobile x-rays at facilities. So that's something to look into. They can work in hospitals, they can work in small like clinics, or they can work in doctor's offices. So that's something to do. Okay, so the average salary here in St. Louis is $49,000, which is around $25 an hour. And then the range of salaries here in St. Louis is between $39,000 and $63,000 a year. The national average is around $60,000 a year. So that's a pretty big difference between the average here in St. Louis, which is around $49,000 a year. So that's something to look into. Again, with this, you do have to do A&P 1 and 2, and it takes 2 years to complete your associates as a radiology tech. So number 5 is occupational therapy assistant. So of course we know there's OT, PT, ST, but there's also assistants that help the occupational therapist. So what they'll do is they'll prep the area for the occupation, for the therapy. They can do one-on-one sessions with patients. They can work in nursing homes. They can do home therapy. They can work in hospitals. There's a lot of different settings that they can be in. They can just work at a therapy like actual center. But they cannot do the original assessment of a patient. But after that, they pretty much can do anything that the occupational therapist would do, but they cannot do like that original workup of the patient. occupational therapy is super cool. This is actually something I was looking into doing. And basically what they do is they deal with the fine motor skills of a patient. So buttoning up your shirt, tying a tie, making yourself a sandwich, what else? If you need help like eating, they'll either create certain tools or order certain tools that will help it so that you can eat a lot better. They call it adaptive equipment. They will order these type of equipment for you so you can eat better and feed yourself, especially with elderly patients. You really need that. Or with sometimes with certain children, they can't hold utensils a certain way, so they'll make it so they'll order them special utensils. What I thought was really cool about OT, my daughter, she has a brachial plexus injury, and her OT makes her these splints so to keep her, because she was having issues where her elbow wasn't extending. So at nighttime, she made this, I guess you can call it a cast that she puts over her arm, and it keeps her arm straight throughout the night. And it really made a huge improvement on my daughter, to where she was starting to get tight in that elbow, and this helped her to loosen up, and now she's not super tight in her elbow. Like OT there, oh my goodness, OT and PT, which is next, physical therapy assistants, you all, it's so freaking rewarding, because you'll have a patient come in, they can't walk, they can't do anything, they get a few weeks, a month, a few months of therapy, and these people are walking out the facility. They came in, couldn't do anything, in a wheelchair, couldn't move nothing, and you help this person to be able to freaking walk. Like, it's amazing. I think OT and PT is very rewarding. You see it sometimes with nursing, we don't always see the end result of what we did, and sometimes the end result, you know, is kind of grim. It's really sad. So I think with OT and PT, there's way more reward involved. It is physical work, because sometimes these patients cannot do anything, and you have to like physically like pick them up and do stuff with them and lift up their body parts and all that. But therapists are amazing. If it was not for therapy, my daughter would not have the progression that she's had. She had one surgery from her doctor. Not to say that her doctor was not amazing. He is an amazing doctor, but he did one therapy. He saw her a few times out the year. Her therapist saw her every single week since she was born, and she's almost 2 years old. So if it wasn't for therapists, like, she would not be where she's at right now, as far as her range of motion with her arms, her ability to lift it up, all that. It took a therapist to help her, to show us, to educate us, and to help her and show her different things, and to show us different techniques, and to look at small details and say, oh, you know what? She's got this going on. I'm going to build this for her to help her with this. Like, it's, therapists are amazing. So that leads to number 6, which is a physical therapy assistant. They are similar to OT, except for they don't deal with fine motor functions. So fine motor functions is things that really take us using our fingers, and like takes precision to get it done. They deal with gross motor skills. So lifting your arm all the way up, lifting your legs all the way up, walking. They deal with things that take like big muscle movements, whereas OT is more like small, fine motor skills. So PT, like I said, is very physical, because they're going to be lifting up your legs, stretching your legs out. They're going to be lifting up your arms, stretching your arms out for you. For patients who cannot, you know, move these body parts, they're helping them with that, or they're lifting them up and helping them walk. That's PT. So you can just look into see which one you're more interested in, but either way, therapists are amazing. And with therapy, you can work with infants, you can work with newborns, you can work in a hospital, you can work with elderly patients, stroke patients, you can do home health. There's someone who comes in and sees my daughter every week and helps her at home, and she's able to build these relationships with families and see them all the way, you know. So I think the therapy, it stops at 3 years old, but it can go longer than that. There's some therapists that go to school with kids, so there's some flexibility in it. And not, like I said, you can also work in a therapy gym as well. So if you're interested in doing therapy, I think it's pretty awesome. It takes 2 years to do therapy assistants. And did I tell you how much they get paid? I got so excited about freaking talking about therapy, but here in Missouri, the average salary is $58,000 a year, which is around $31 an hour, and the salary range is between $53,000 and $64,000, and then the national average is still around $58,000. And once again, it's a 2-year program, and you still have to do a lot of nursing prerequisites, and it's about the same with PT. From what I've seen, PT gets paid a little bit less. So as an honorable mention, I'm gonna put on here dental hygienists. Now these people make bank. Okay, here in St. Louis, they make around $72,000 on average, which is around $38 an hour. And then the salary range is between $62,000 and $83,000. And then the national average is about $74,000 a year. It does take 2 years as compared to the rest of them. And you could do this at the community college. Only thing with dental hygienists, it is competitive. And it's a lot of work. I would think that you have to really know your stuff to do this, like in people's mouth. Like, so that's that. And it's not as similar to a lot of these other things, whereas you can work with a different variety of patients in different job settings. With dental hygienists, you're pretty much in the same job setting, and you're either working with children or adults. There's not a lot of like variety here. But I do feel like it's a good honorable mention if that's something that you're interested in doing, and the pay is still really good. But from what I've seen and what I know, it is competitive to get into these programs. That's that. I hope you all found this list interesting and you see that there's way more possibilities other than nursing. I'm not trying to persuade you not to do nursing. I understand why people want to do it, but I think like nursing is seen like, oh, I want to be a nurse. And you don't realize like it's other stuff out there that might fit you better, might fit your lifestyle better. A lot of these careers, you don't have to work freaking all the time. You know, nursing is 24 hours. A lot of these careers is not 24 hours. If you're a freaking ultrasound tech, I'm sure you don't have to work, you know, 7 days a week, or there's not availabilities to work 7 days a week unless you want to be like on call at a hospital or something like that. But for the most part, you don't have to work crazy hours. You don't have to work holidays and stuff like that if you don't want to. There's way more flexibility. And you still get paid a decent amount. Now nurses, there's some nurses that don't have to get paid holidays or don't have to work holidays, but they might be taking a pay cut working in a doctor's office versus working in a hospital or a nursing home. So that's just my idea of it. Those are some things I looked at. And like I said, all of these careers you can do at a community college, at least here in St. Louis, from the research I was looking at. Now, none of these are substitutes for nursing as far as the education level that it takes, the professionalism it takes, and also some of the competitiveness, the competitive nature of healthcare in general, because healthcare is competitive flat out. No matter what you want to do, there's going to be some type of competition because healthcare is like the #1 industry in the United States. It's what basically pushes the economy forward is healthcare. Keep that in mind, you all. Everybody needs healthcare, right? So this is the industry that pushes the economy forward. So it's going to be some type of competition involved. But just see, it might be something different for you. So comment down below based off your state where you're at, how much are these different careers paying? If you know anyone that's doing, if you're doing them yourself, has this video made you think differently? Maybe you don't want to go into nursing, maybe you want to try something else. Maybe you'll do your prerequisites and you'll apply for nursing, and you'll also apply to be an ultrasound tech and see which program you get into quicker. Nothing wrong with that. You can do that. There's options out here for you all, and just see what fits you. It does not always have to be nursing, but you do need to like, comment, and subscribe regardless. Comment down below what you all think. Do you like the video? Do you want to see more videos like this? Are you interested in anything besides nursing? Have you maybe started at one thing and then tried something else out? Let me know. Comment down below. Keep the comment section popping. Also join the YourFavNurseB Facebook group if you're interested in nursing or pre-nursing, or you want to get an idea of what's going on in the nursing world. Join that because we have a lot of supportive people on there that'll help you to get through it. Also follow me on IG where I give you daily motivation, inspiration, and education in the field of nursing at YourFavNurseB #1. Thank you all for watching. Peace.